I'm here because I was in a comic book. Josie and the Pussycats is up next on Rediscovered Movies. Hello, welcome to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Malloy. So today I am joined by a special guest. It's not his first time on the podcast, so please welcome Max Husseini.
Hi everyone, nice to be back. Thanks for having me back, Numpy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a pleasure to having you here. So, this movie will be a fun one to discuss. So, we'll be talking about Josie and the Pussycats. So, the movie is a 2001 satirical musical comedy film. It's based on the Archie Comics series and the Hanna-Barbera cartoon of the same name. So, the film is written and directed by Harry Elfont and Deborah Kaplan, who's known for working on the film Can't Hardly Wait. The film stars Rachel Leigh Cook, Tara Reid, and Rosario Dawson. So here is the synopsis. A girl group find themselves in the middle of a conspiracy to deliver subliminal messages through popular music. So the film was released in theaters on April 11th, 2001. So in terms of box office, the film has a $22 million budget. It made over $14.3 million worldwide. It opened at number 7 domestically with 4.5 million. It was beaten by films including Spy Kids, Bridget Jones' Diary, and Joe Dirt. In terms of critical reception, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 53% critic score. They say this live action update of Josie and the Pussycats offers up bubbly, fluffy fun, but the constant appearance of product placement seems rather hypocritical. The audience gave it 52%. It has a B cinema score. It has three Teen Choice Award nominations, including Best Comedy Film. At the time of this recording, it is streaming on Stars and is available on demand, so check your local provider. All right, so we could get into first discovery. So, Max, do you want to start?
I didn't know too much about Josie and the Pussycats. I remember back in the day, when I was younger, I remember hearing about the movie coming out. Um, my exposure to the actual franchise itself was the cartoon. So I didn't watch the cartoon, but I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan, and when I used to watch Sailor Moon on YTV, Josie and the Pussycats would be on right before. So I'd always remember, okay, Josie and the Pussycats is on, so Sailor Moon's on next. So that's my experience with the show. I'm more familiar with the Archie comics, but not as much with the Josie and the Pussycats universe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what do you think about this movie during your initial watch?
So I kind of like over the top movies. If you listen to the previous podcast I was on, I really liked Confessions of a Shopaholic. I like Spice World, but this movie did not do it for me. Um, I actually did not like this movie. I think it was very over the top, but not in a good way. And I'm kind of surprised saying this too because I usually like those kind of like over the top cheesy flicks, but
Mm-hmm.
this one there was just something off about it that I did not enjoy.
Right. So I had a similar experience with you. So I first learned about Josie and the Pussycats through the animated series because it might have been either YTV or Cartoon Network, one of those platforms where I saw maybe an episode or two, but I haven't revisited in a long time. So I can't compare like the movie to the animated series or with the comics, which I didn't know it was based off comics until
Hmm.
much later. So when I first saw this movie, I think it was on TV at the time in the 2000s. I thought it was entertaining, but rewatching it years later, I find it still entertaining, but it's weird because I think on one hand, it tries to be like a satire. I'm not sure if the satire aspect of it works, but on the other hand, it tries to be like a fun, like teen comedy movie. So, like, there's definitely like a like a shift going on with this movie. Probably that's why it's off. So, like, it's enjoyable in parts. I'm not sure about it as a whole. And I felt like with the humor is a bit hit and miss, especially when it came to the whole evil record label plot. But there's parts of it to enjoy, I would
I
say.
I definitely agree with that, Numpy. Like, especially, I think the humor was very hit and miss. Like, there were some parts where I did find myself laughing, but then there was other
Mm-hmm.
parts where it's like, especially with the whole villain and the overarching like villainous plot, like it was kind of a bit cringy at parts.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So we could get into the highlights, essentially what we liked about this movie. So I'll say if one, I like how this represents the 2000s, like the nostalgia, because especially as someone growing up during that era, it was just nice to see like the nice throwbacks in terms of like how the movie was shot, like particularly with the opening sequence with DuJour, like you see with the fishbowl lenses and the white glowy filter and the fast cuts for the music videos, and also the nice throwbacks, especially with HMV, because I loved HMV and we used to have it here in Canada because that brings up so many memories, and also to lots of MTV and VH1 references in this movie. So I loved how it represented the 2000s on that aspect.
Yeah, me too. I definitely like love the throwback aspect. Like I love seeing like the little like cameos from the older bands and the older like um yeah, like I remember they make a reference to the Spice Girls at one point and I was like, "Oh
Hmm.
yeah, Spice Girls." Yeah. So I definitely like the throwback aspect of the film and the feel of the film. Did have a very 2000s feel to it. Like definitely late 90s, early 2000s feel to the film.
Hmm.
Um and it was nice because I think it factors in the nostalgia factor, right? Brings you back to
Hmm.
that kind of time and how things used to be like back then. So yeah, I definitely do appreciate that aspect of the film as well.
Absolutely. And to go off that point, like the soundtrack, like the soundtrack for me is the highlight of the movie because yes, it's very 2000s. It's clearly a pop rock sound, like especially from like artists back in the day. And I would say for me, my favorite songs was Backdoor Lover by DuJour. That's like a nice, catchy pop song. And I would say Three Small Words by Josie and the Pussycats played during the opening credits. That was like my favorite song from that band.
The music for me, maybe I'll talk about this a bit more in the low lights. Like I wouldn't say it was a low light for me, but there was nothing that really um stuck out. So I did like the overall sound of it. You're right, like the sound of it was very 2000s and I did appreciate that sound, but like there was no like song that was like stuck in my head afterwards. Like I'm gonna draw a comparison again to like Confessions of a Shopaholic. Like Confessions of a
Hmm.
Shopaholic is a movie about fashion, right? And
Yeah.
you know, there were definitely looks from the movie that like I remembered afterwards, like, oh yeah, that's definitely a look from that movie. But there's no musical piece from this movie that like I carried on with me afterwards. Like it was nice to listen
Hmm.
to in the moment, but
Hmm.
I don't think like for a movie that is about music, the soundtrack wasn't very strong for me. It wasn't
Okay.
bad, but it wasn't very strong.
Yeah, because I think like with the sound, like you're either gonna love it or you don't. Like I quite liked it. I didn't like all of it myself, but I get why like you're not really a big fan of the soundtrack.
Mhm.
Say that. And another highlight for me was the whole commentary on the music industry because I mean it's very clear that the record labels essentially they all they care about is the money, and they do so much to manufacture artists just to boost sales like we see with was it Mega Records, that's the name of this
Yeah.
label in this movie. Yeah. And I thought like it was hilarious at one point where Wyatt, when he meets the girls for the first time at Starbucks, he like immediately gets them to sign the contract without looking into it. So really, like if any of you guys gonna sign contracts, please read the fine
Hmm.
details before signing it, because otherwise you'll get screwed over at the end if
Mhm.
you don't read it. And the product placements for me were hit and miss because I feel like with so many product placements in this movie, it could be a drinking game on its own. And if you guys do so, drink responsibly. But yeah, like practically every shot, there's a lot of product placements. And also too, I want to point out that yeah, like with like it brings up they care about the profits even after an artist's death. So with DuJour, like with the plane crash with their presumed death, because it was interesting that with Wyatt, when he goes to HMV, like he tells the associate to play their latest record, and they're promoting like a box set after they died. Like it's kind of weird, but at the same time, it's not too surprising.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest highlight for me actually with this movie is the commentary on like kind of the music industry, how it was then and how it is even nowadays. Like it's still like, everything is about like capitalizing on what's hip and what's like in the scene and what's fresh. And like you said, like even with the du jour, like when they were presumed dead, like they were capitalizing on that. And like we see that nowadays too. Like definitely like when a celebrity or a musician like passes, like we definitely see like their like memorial or tribute albums or merchandise or memorabilia comes out, and they essentially do capitalize on their deaths. As for the product placements, I found it super annoying at first, but then I learned to appreciate it a lot because um it's a commentary on the film itself, and I think it was done pretty cleverly. Like how it's the film is about like subliminal messages, and like it kind of played up on that with like all the product placement. So I think at one point in the movie they even say like subliminal messages are work better in movies. And I think that's what they were trying to do with this. It's like they did such outrageous product placement that it for me it was kind of funny, and like the satire aspect of it to like look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, they really are kind of pushing what they're like selling." Um, and I really enjoyed the one particular scene where I think it was Melody. She was in the shower with all the McDonald's toys, and like she was rubbing herself with the French fries, and I thought that was really cute. And then of course
Yeah,
like all the Target stuff, the Target airplane, and then Val's room was also like a Target. Like Target vomited all over Val's room.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I actually really like that piece that like they were able to provide commentary in that way. And I think for me at least, they did it effectively. Like I found it was clever.
Yeah, I have more to say about the product placements in the low light section, and I do have some fun facts about that one. But I do want to bring up a point where I like how with this movie, it talks essentially talks about like independent versus mainstream. Because when we see the girls, like they're really struggling to get like their foot in the door in terms of the industry. Like when we find that after the opening credits, they were actually singing at a bowling alley and that
Yeah.
no one was paying attention to them. But then like once they make it big, like they're able to have all like the resources, and they're on billboards everywhere. So I find like that was a nice interesting commentary about in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. No, definitely agree with that as well.
hmm And another highlight I would say is the cast, because I think everyone did a good job with the material. I do like, yeah, with our Josie and the Pussycats, with Rachel Leigh Cook, Rosario Dawson, and Tara Reid. Like they have chemistry together, and I felt it was perfect casting on their part.
Yeah, like especially the one who really stuck out for me was Val. So the character of Val and her
hmm
portrayal of Val, like I think that was
hmm
my favorite performance in the film.
Yeah,
And even with like Wyatt and the other, what was her name? The main
Fiona.
villain, Fiona. Yeah, even with Wyatt and
hmm
Fiona, they were really over the top, but like I think the actors played their parts well as well.
hmm Absolutely. And another highlight I would say, like with Wyatt, like he tends to always reach a breaking point as a manager, because when we see that in the plane scene with DuJour, and also too like after when Fiona like tells him to find a new band, he's like, oh, like I want to see her ass like try to get up and find a band. So
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, that was funny. So probably this is what managers have to deal with their artists, I guess, on a constant basis. But
I really
hilarious.
like the scene where was it Carson? I think his name is Carson, right? The
Yeah,
TV. Yeah,
yeah.
where he was trying to take out Melody with the baseball bat, and they were kind of bonding over like how they have similar interests or whatnot, and I found that was really cute. And then like at the end, she like kind of like she's like, I'd never date someone like you, and then she like hits him. I
Mm,
found that was really cute, that scene. I also liked the kind of cat fight at the end
it's
between
hilarious. It's
like it was
hilarious.
very over the top,
Yeah.
but I think it was a fitting ending for a movie that was so over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because with like the TRL scene, like I have more to say about that on the lowlights section, but I find it was interesting that apparently Tara Reid and Carson Daly they started dating after I guess filming this movie. So,
Oh wow.
hmm,
Wow.
yeah, interesting for sure. Another highlight for me was the opening sequence because it was funny how essentially with DuJour, like they were parodying the Backstreet Boys "I Want It That Way" video, and
Yeah.
I wondered though, like, was it supposed to be a music video or was it supposed to be a live performance? I wasn't too sure, but I thought, yeah, like it was a nice, fun opening sequence.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm. And also too, some I guess cute scenes. Alexander with the who's the Pussycats manager. It's
Hmm.
hilarious how he pretends to make a phone call to get out of an argument between him and Josie and the rest of the band.
Hmm. Yeah.
I thought, yeah, that was cute. And also, too, another scene I liked was when the emo teen. This was during the HMV sequence where she criticizes DuJour when their new music was playing at the store, and then when as she was giving feedback, she gets kidnapped and thrown into a white van.
Hmm.
That was quite hilarious. And the last highlight for me was when Wyatt he makes a call after Josie suspects a sudden changes, but then changes her mind when like Val is like, no, like it's fine. So I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Hmm. So anything else you want to add for the highlight section?
I think that was pretty much it.
Hmm.
Like I said, the music was okay, not memorable. I wouldn't say the music was either a highlight or a low light. It was just it was kind of like right in the middle for me. Um, I really liked Val's performance. There was a couple of cute scenes. Like I said, when Melody was taking a shower, and the scene between her and Carson, and
Hmm.
the kind of the climax scene was very over the top, and I think it was very fitting for the film. Um, yeah, and those were my highlights, I think. And then also like the kind of the commentary on the music industry and like product placements and subliminal messaging and all that. Yeah.
Hmm. All right. So let's get into the low light section. So, yeah, let's talk about the product placements because, yeah, there was a lot, and I just felt like for me, they didn't really had a purpose than other just to being in the more in the foreground. Like, sorry. So the product placement should have been more in the foreground as opposed to being in the background for me. Because an example of a product placement in the movie that's done well, in my opinion, would be the Truman Show. Because at least that had like a purpose to it in that movie. While like here, I felt like they were just there.
Mm. Yeah, I think I disagree with you. I think they used product placement, and yeah, like maybe it could have been more subtle. But I think like, they used product placement to like kind of put an emphasis on like how media has these subliminal messages, or how they push marketing, and how like, you know after watching a movie, sometimes you randomly crave McDonald's and you don't know why, and it could be because of a product placement in the film. Like, definitely after seeing the McDonald's stuff in this movie, I wanted McDonald's. Like, um, yeah, like they definitely didn't do it subtly, but I think, for me, I think that was like that commentary was the strongest kind of point of this film for me.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't felt that way myself, but I respect your opinion. So,
Hmm.
another low light for me was with Fiona as the villain. I felt like with her, it seems like she wants to brainwash people to like her, which I'm like, why would you brainwash people to like her when she's behind the scenes? That
Hmm.
didn't make sense for me. And also, like, she kind of displays some Weinstein vibes during the party scene when they're at her room when she's rubbing Josie's shoulders. I'm just like, what is this? This is
Mm,
weird.
yeah. 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 And then like she makes that comment where she's like, "Oh, I'm 115. How much do you weigh?" or something like that. And she's like, "I'm 3 pounds lighter, Josie." But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what do you think about the reveal, like at the end, where she had like what was it, the lisp, and like apparently she's like I forgot what her real name was in the movie, like Lisa something, and then
yeah.
what, and then Wyatt turns out, oh, he's actually someone else, like they knew each other in high school, which I'm like, what?
I think it was very over the top and stretched, but like I feel like that kind of fits with the theme of the movie. Did I like it? No. Did I hate it? No.
Okay, so you're in the middle,
Yeah, I'm in the
essentially.
middle with it. Like I think it fit with the movie. Like the movie was so over the top and outrageous at points, like definitely like it wasn't super left field for me.
Yeah, it was at times, but yeah. Also, to another low light is that with Fiona, like, why did she need a band after DuJour's plane crash? Because we're not sure, like, if the record label is struggling or if there's success. Because maybe, like, we would have been a bit more sympathetic if the record label was struggling and they need the new it bands to boost their sales. But that's not the case with this movie. So,
Yeah, like I think one of the lowlights for this movie is kind of the story arc was weak for
yeah.
me. Like yeah, I know it's not meant to be like a cinematic masterpiece or anything like that, but still like the story arc was kind of weak. And that's a very good point that you brought up, Numpy. Like if they added more story to it, it could have been a lot more enjoyable. Like
Yeah,
yeah, I get like it's a satire and it's a comedy, but like comedies can still have good plots,
exactly.
and well thought out plots. And I think one of the reasons why Confessions of a Shopaholic worked for me, but this movie didn't, is because I really liked the character arc in Confessions of a Shopaholic.
Yeah,
So Isla Fisher's character, you know, she went through this like great character arc from beginning to end, and it was a very character driven movie. Whereas this, even with the lead three characters, yeah, they had their struggles, but like there wasn't anything really fleshed out, and like I feel like problems were resolved really easily. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, essentially. Another low light for me, I just wonder with Alexandra, who's the sister to their band manager, Alexander, like, why is she here? Because I think, because she was like a character, I believe, in the cartoons. I forgot what role she was in that, but her during the title sequence, it says her title is Attitude, while everybody else has a different role. So is she a groupie? I don't know.
My thoughts exactly. The movie would have been exactly the same had they just omitted her character. Like her character added nothing to the movie. I don't, like you said, like why is she there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like was she supposed to be a rival to Josie in terms of like a love interest rival, or like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really don't know why she was there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Also, to another low light is like towards the end, so the audience, they have to wear these headsets in order to hear the music from the concert, which is weird itself. But I just wondered though, like, why did they need the headsets? Because I felt like it could have mentioned that the technology, maybe their outstanding technology or whatever, requires the headsets. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get why the audience didn't question the headsets. They decided to just went along with it. But
Hmm. Yeah, I think they're like I think it's a very generalized statement as to like kind of like teens will just kind of do whatever, or like people, right? Like groupies, like
yeah,
fans.
yeah,
Um but like I said before, like that I definitely agree with you, Numpy. That could have definitely been better fleshed out. Like the plot could have been a lot better fleshed out for sure.
yeah. Because instead of having the headset, they could have played like certain music, like a theme, or they could have shown like visuals to manipulate the audience instead of having them to wear the headsets.
Yeah, yeah. See, that would have been so much better. I like really like the
Yeah.
visuals idea. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Another low light for me, like so with the fake TRL scene, I felt for me it could have been more believable if they used the actual set than just to have like the fake, people and the like I like obviously like when we see that we don't believe it. We know something is up.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that choice.
Yeah.
Because I know you like the scene,
I
so
liked the part with Carson and Tara Reid's character, so Melody. I liked their interaction. The scene itself was, like I said, it was kind of forgettable, and I do agree with that aspect. Like they should have brought them on the real set. But then again, like this
mhm.
movie was so over the top, like it, like
Yeah,
I wasn't like super surprised by that choice.
yeah. And the last low light for me is the ending because I felt it was weird after that the crowd they immediately liked the music after removing the headsets because you figured that the audience they were programmed to enjoy the music because maybe most of them they don't even like that music without the headsets, but
Hmm.
after listening to music like, oh, we love this song, really. Just like, wow. And like also too with Josie, she could have used a microphone instead of yelling at L and M because you figure as a singer you need to preserve your voice and you have a microphone. Use it.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure.
Because
Yeah.
what you think about the ending?
About that part, I don't have very strong opinions on the ending. I like the kind of the musical, like the cheesy kind of musical, like ending
Okay.
song. Like it wasn't a memorable song, but I liked the feel of the scene. It was like a happy-go-lucky feel, which I always enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are little like details like you mentioned, like she could have used a microphone, or like why are they wearing the headsets, why do they still like the music, like there are details like that that were overlooked, but
Yeah.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah. But I felt like they did that to have like a happy ending.
Yeah,
But
yeah, for sure.
and is there anything else you want to add to this category before we move on?
Low lights. No, not I found some of the performances like from the, not the main group, but like not even Wyatt or them, but like the very background characters were really over the top and kind of like pulled me out of the movie. Like those
Okay.
three annoying girls that like at the beginning of the movie were like, "Oh, we hate your music" and blah blah blah. Like I really did not like their performances. Maybe it's the way it was supposed to be done, but it was just
Yeah.
so over the top and so annoying. Even when there were fans, I was like, "Oh my god." Like, no.
Like I didn't mind them because it just shows that like like any person is willing to follow the band whether they like their music or not because it does happen, so
That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I forgot about one thing to add. So with DuJour, I felt like what kind of name is that for a boy band? Because it sounds more fitting for like a perfume as opposed to a
That's
boy
exactly what
band.
I was
Yeah,
thinking. Oh my god, that's exactly what I was thinking. It sounds like a perfume brand, yeah, or like a cologne, yeah.
yeah. Because it's hilarious where in the movie they say DuJour means friendship. DuJour means family. It's hilarious. So we could move on to the trivia section. So here are some fun facts from the film that I found through IMDb. So Rachel Leigh Cook, who plays Josie, so her singing voice was dubbed by Kay Hanley, who's the lead singer of the band Letters to Cleo. I felt,
Oh,
yeah,
oh, I didn't know that she didn't actually sing.
yeah. But apparently, I read that with Rachel Leigh Cook, she provided like the background vocals.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, okay, but why? Because I'm sure, like, if you could do background vocals, you're capable to doing lead vocal. Because I don't know if it was her decision or if it was the studio's decision, but whoever made that decision it was a weird decision. So
Hmm.
another fun fact. So, to stay with the consumer economy tone of the film from beginning to end, there were approximately 73 companies who have product placement shown, from logos to actual items ranging in entertainment, electronics, fashion, food, hygiene, and cars. No money was received from all of the product placements in the film. Interesting. Because usually for product placements, you
You
get
get
paid
money,
for,
yeah.
yeah, or something. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was, I'm like, okay. And another fun fact, so Puma, they provided thousands of free TV shirts for the audience in the climax Josie concert scene. John Frieda Salon sponsored a Josie themed perfect rockin' hair makeover sweepstakes and advertised the movie wherever their products were sold. Revlon launched cross promotional tie ins like $2 discounts on Josie tickets along with streetwear packaging. So I guess that's not surprising.
Yeah, especially they were kind of like more prominently featured, like especially John Frieda and Revlon. Like I remember seeing a lot of both of those brands in the movie.
Yeah, because I know, like, with this movie hasn't come up yet with the Barbie movie, like at the time we're recording this, but I
Hmm.
imagine, I wonder though if that movie is going to feature a lot of product placements in that movie. I don't know.
I wonder, maybe I don't think so because I think Barbie's message is different than what
Yeah.
this movie was trying to portray.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like obviously there's going to be a lot of Barbie mention, Barbie memorabilia, but I don't think it's going to be overloaded with like McDonald's, for example, or Target or
I
yeah.
mean, we are definitely seeing some of that, like with the marketing for this movie, because I've went to various stores and it is everywhere, like with T-shirts, with all sorts of merch. It's everywhere. I
Yeah.
imagine the marketing budget for that movie is insane, but
Yeah, for sure.
we'll see. So who knows? Maybe later on, like in the future, we could do a future podcast episode on Barbie movie. We'll have to
Ah,
wait and see.
I would
So
love that. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
looking very forward to it.
Oh yeah, same here. Yeah. All right, so back to Josie and the Pussycats. So the co-director Harry Elfont he revealed during the film's 16th anniversary celebration in 2017 that Beyonce, Aaliyah, and TLC's Left Eye Lopez all auditioned for the film. They read Lisa Left Eye Lopez twice as she really wanted to play the role. Elfont says Beyonce was shy and quiet while Aaliyah was more serious and thoughtful, whereas the film is a comedy. So it's
Oh.
interesting that they looked at, I guess, different singers here, like for the role.
Mhm.
But I
And
just
those are
wondered
pretty
though,
big
like, what?
names.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I wondered though, like, would that have worked in the context of the movie without being too distracting?
I think it might have made the movie more marketable, like in terms of like it might have been more successful because like Beyonce and Aaliyah are bigger names than the ones who are featured in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, arguably. But yeah, I think the film might have performed better in the cinemas had that been the case.
Probably, yeah, for sure. Also, too, the titular band's outfits and videos were inspired by the wardrobe of Destiny's Child and Britney Spears. Their music was also inspired by Avril Lavigne and Good Charlotte. I would say that makes sense in terms
Yeah,
of the
that makes
style
a
of the
lot of
music.
sense.
Yeah. Hmm.
I definitely got Avril Lavigne, like early 2000 Avril Lavigne vibes from their music for sure.
Yeah, because I'm not sure about the wardrobe of Destiny's Child and Britney Spears of this movie. I mean, yes, there's a lot of coordination with the outfits, but maybe. I don't
Hmm.
know. Also, too, originally Fiona, she was supposed to have been very fat when she was younger, but the actress Parker Posey suggested that Fiona should have a speech impediment instead.
Hmm.
Because I know what was it during the party scene? She was asking about how much you weigh and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's interesting.
hmm, yeah. Another fun fact, due to the level of profanity and adult themes, the family friendly Archie Comics, which published the original Josie and the Pussycat stories, would denounce the film and discourage people from seeing it. Strangely, many years later, the comics would not only be fine with, but also promote the TV series Riverdale, based on their Archie stories, and which features Josie, Melody, and Valerie as secondary characters, which arguably had much darker adult themes in the storylines than this movie.
Oh yeah, for
Interesting.
sure. Riverdale's definitely a lot darker than I did
Yeah.
not find this movie dark.
Yeah, me neither.
I
So
don't know why the comics had an issue with the film, but okay.
I don't know, maybe because the comics were more, I guess, general audience type. I don't know. I haven't read the comics, so I cannot say on that part, but
I felt this movie was very PG-13. Like I don't recall anything that really like stood out to me in a bad way. Like oh, like this definitely should not be for kids. No, I did not have any of those moments.
I mean, maybe you could argue with the satire aspects of the movie because maybe kids will not get that unless if
Hmm.
you really know it. But I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know. And lastly, the film was meant to be the first in a series of live action adaptations of Hanna-Barbera cartoons that would be geared towards the older audiences that grew up with them with raunchier humor. The film's failure killed off such plans, and the following film Scooby Doo would be edited into a PG rated film to avoid repeating the film's mistakes. Interesting.
Wow. I feel like did I miss something in this film? Like I thought the film was pretty PG.
Yeah, no, they say like because with Scooby Doo, if you remember that live action movie that came out in 2002, which was notably the script was done by James Gunn, because I think apparently for that movie was supposed to be rated R originally,
Oh, wow.
but then it
Okay.
got turned to PG, I guess PGA to make it more family friendly.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah, interesting. Because I won't be surprised later on if they decide to remake Josie and the Pussycats either as a live action series or maybe another movie attempt. I won't be surprised if they reboot Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I agree. Especially
Hmm.
with like how Riverdale was successful, they might go like kind of like the alternate route with Josie and the Pussycats, maybe make it like a bit edgier, more catered to today's like crowd and teen group, like teen crowd, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. I forgot how to speak.
It's fine. It's fine. So, lastly, I usually ask this question: should this movie be rediscovered? And what do you say, Max?
For the movie as is, if you want a bit of kick of early 2000s nostalgia, maybe, but I think there's other movies that do early 2000s better than this movie, and overall I feel this movie's over the top in not a great way. And I feel like it's definitely not one that you will be upset over if you miss it. So no, I don't recommend this movie.
All right. So for me, if you were to take out the satire aspects of the movie, I guess it could work as like a fun like teen comedy. but because it has satire, like I don't really recommend it too much on that front, even though it has nice commentary on the music industry and all that stuff. Because if you're looking for a satire, like I would say watch films such as The Truman Show, which I recently got on 4K Blu-ray, and I would say like watch it for the 2000s nostalgia, like particularly like with all like the product placements and with the soundtrack, which apparently did very well when it came out at the time. So
No. Okay.
there you have it.
Yeah.
So that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So Max, where can people find you?
So people can find me on Instagram at Max_Housany, Housany. That's how you spell the last name. Yeah, and I'd love to connect.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Linktree at Nomfanelo. You can find the podcast at Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. On Spotify app, you can answer the feature question and rate the podcast and do the featured Q&A polls. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review and rate the podcast. You could submit questions, comments, or suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you can send a short voice message on Spotify for podcasters at RD Movies Pod to be featured on the after show, which will air after the season finale. And all the links to this stuff will be available in the description. So before we sign off, is there any final notes you want to share,
I
Max?
just wanted to thank you once again for having me back, Numphy. I always enjoy these podcast recordings and watching the movies. Even though I did not particularly enjoy Josie and the Pussycats, I enjoyed watching it for the sake of reviewing it for this podcast. Yeah, so I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, absolutely. And I want to thank you guys all for tuning in to this episode of the podcast and catch you on the next one.